Ask consent that the quorum be waived.
Without objection.
So, Mr. President, as I said earlier and I predicted earlier, our Democrat colleagues have come out and totally mischaracterized this bill. So let me just go through this again very slowly so that they can watch it and listen. So the question really is this a bill that helps working Americans, or is this a bill that helps billionaires? Which, again, let me just pause on the irony that it wasn't too long ago where they were saying millionaires until they themselves realized that they became millionaires. Again, different topic. If you take out a car loan for an American-made automobile and you can deduct that interest, the bill in the text specifies that you cannot make more than $100,000 per year. I think by definition, somebody who makes less than $100,000 a year is not a billionaire. So indisputable that that part of the bill does not help billionaires. It helps working Americans. Notice that was not addressed. Second, no tax on overtime. I don't think there's a lot of billionaires that punch a clock. That is clearly something that helps working Americans. No income tax on tips. Once again, I don't see a lot of billionaires serving us at restaurants, taking care of us at nail salons or barbershops. It is clearly something that helps working Americans. As I predicted, they did not address that particular provision. No tax on Social Security, and that is capped at $150,000 in income. Again, by definition, not a billionaire. A $5,000 tax increase that's prevented. That does not help billionaires. It helps working Americans that don't want to see their taxes go up. They didn't address that. Now, when 10 million illegals invade this country and drive down our wages, drive up our housing costs, do you think Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk are worried about the price of housing? Jeff Bezos just had a $55 million wedding in Italy. I don't think he's worried about his housing costs going up. I don't think there's a lot of criminal aliens that are going to Beverly Hills or Palo Alto or Martha's Vineyard to buy homes. They are going to places like Springfield, Ohio, where we saw our average rents go from about $1,000 to 2 or 3 times that amount because we had a surge of 18,000 aliens in a city of 50,000 people. Insurance prices went up because we had a massive amount of car accidents and crashes. That's real world. That happens, and that affects working Americans. And what this bill does is it deports them. Now, what isn't said by my Democrat colleagues is that they have a lot of their friends that love criminal alien labor. They can't complain. They get paid a lot less money. That doesn't benefit working Americans. Working Americans don't have 5 gardeners and 3 nannies at their house in Martha's Vineyard, but Democrat colleagues' friends sure do. Go spend a summer in Martha's Vineyard. You'll see exactly what I mean. You'll see decadence unlike something you've never seen in your life. $30, $40 million homes, private jets to get there. You know what they do? They sip cappuccinos in the morning talking about climate change when they heat and cool their homes 365 days a year. That's who funds the Democrat Party today, and it's quite sad, honestly, because the Democrat Party used to be the party for working class. It used to be the party that were championing things in this bill. A $2,200 child tax credit. Do you think that billionaires are really going to think about $2,200 as a child tax credit, something that they're really going to motivate them? Do you think that billionaires are going to rush out, get married, and have kids because they're going to get a $2,200 child tax credit? Or do you think it's going to allow them to buy groceries? You know, the Democrat leaders spoke about SNAP benefits and taking food away from children. Those are the kinds of hyperbolic statements that I think all of us here in the United States Senate should be above that. Nobody's suggesting that we take food literally out of the hands of children. But what their policies did do over the last 4 years, inadvertently maybe, I'll give them credit, raised grocery prices to the point where working Americans had to make a decision at the cash register whether to buy something or not. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw it with my own eyes as I went into Giant Eagle in Westlake, Ohio, and I would see people come in and to buy groceries, and they would have to make a decision. Maybe the bigger cereal box they can't do. Maybe they have to go to generics instead of the Kellogg's because their grocery bill is just too high. Imagine what that feels like. you're a working American, you worked your whole life, and in front of your children, you have to look at them and say, I can't afford to get you cereal today. I can't afford to get you that extra snack that you wanted. They drove up the price of inflation. The one big beautiful bill will lower it. They didn't talk about that. They didn't talk about the $1,000 fund that goes into for American citizens. Again, do you think billionaires care whether $1,000 goes into a fund that can be maybe $100,000 or $200,000 when those kids turn 25, 30 years old? I don't think that makes a difference to Jeff Bezos. I think his children will be just fine. Something that helps working Americans. Again, they don't address that. At least be honest about your objection to the bill, and their objection to the bill is pretty straightforward. They don't want President Trump to get a win. Let's talk about health care. Do you think that billionaires worry about their health care premiums? Working Americans do. What are we doing? We're preserving these health care programs for the people who need them. We're strengthening Medicaid. What they've allowed to happen is that states have been gaming the federal government, drawing down funds to pay for other projects and other benefits. And the people who are going to be eliminated from the Medicaid system is illegal migrants. We shall see whether in this bill they object to that provision. Because in our current draft, again, they don't refer to this, it says that you cannot receive any welfare programs unless you're an American citizen. They'll have the opportunity to object and remove that from the bill. That doesn't help billionaires, but it does crush working Americans. They didn't talk about the dangers all over the world. Congo and Rwanda just signed a peace deal in the White House yesterday. Pakistan and India averted a massive war. We now have a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. In 6 months, President Trump has brought peace and prosperity around the world. But our military was depleted because they insisted on funding a proxy war with Russia. We're fixing that. They didn't talk about the investment in the Coast Guard. They leave that out because, again, they want you to think that this bill is about billionaires. It certainly is not. They didn't talk about the air traffic control system. My colleague has been here almost as long as I've been alive. He had the opportunity, when he controlled this chamber, controlled the House, controlled the presidency, to fund a modernization of our air traffic control system. He didn't do it. He isn't talking about that. And he talked about the Green New Deal, the Green New Scam. Let's talk about that for a second. Let me just walk you through, if you're not familiar with what this is. Let's say that you want to build a solar project, for example, in London, Ohio. You can go out and buy acres of land, way more than market value. Why? Because the federal government will pay you 30% of what you think the project is worth. Let me just repeat that for a second. Say that a project's going to cost you $10 million to build. The federal government will pay you 30% of what you think it's worth. That's in the Inflation Reduction Act. It's what they call fair market value. So let's say you find a friendly appraiser that says, hey, this solar project is really worth $30 million. The federal government will write you a check for $9 million of the $10 million it costs to build that project. If you're really savvy, you then go to a bank. You say, hey, look, I got this project. It's worth all this money. Can you give me a loan? Maybe they get half, $5 million. Before it produces one electron, you've put $4 million in your pocket. Do you really care if the project succeeds? Why would you? You just made out like a bandit. This is why the Inflation Reduction Act, when it was passed, was supposed to cost about $1 trillion. And it's costing exponentially more than that. These are scams on the American people. Now in Ohio, we have thousands of years of natural gas. Thousands of years, the cleanest energy you can imagine, the most abundant, reliable energy. What did the Democrats in the previous administration do? Completely kneecapped it. Banned liquid natural gas exports, made it virtually impossible to explore for new natural gas, removed permits from federal lands, canceled the Keystone Pipeline. Who did that affect? Do you think that that billionaire buddy of one of my colleagues who has a compound on Martha's Vineyard cares if his energy price went up 30%? He does, by the way, doesn't even pay the bill. He has somebody who he knows that has somebody beneath him, that has somebody beneath them that actually pays the bills. He has no idea. If his energy price went up 30%, it wouldn't even affect their life. I was with somebody in Martha's Vineyard a couple, 3 years ago. And they gave a quote that I'll never forget, and I want to put this into the record. It's a quote from one of my Democrat colleagues. Now, in the spirit of decorum, I will not mention their name, but here's the quote. In front of a $35 million home, that most of the guests flew there on private jets, that had several boats anchored with, by the way, gigantic outboard engines that used probably 30 gallons of gas every 5 minutes, said the following quote. Are you ready, Mr. President, for this quote? If you want to live like a Republican, vote for a Democrat. Think about how callous that is. They said the quiet part out loud. I'm proud, Mr. President, that you and I are part of a new Republican Party. I think you and I represent a new vision of the Republican Party, a party that's about helping working Americans actually live a better life. That's why I'm here. I know that's why you're here. And I know that's why you and I are so proud of this bill. And again, I'll close with this. And I know there's lots of noise out there right now all over this building. We have an opportunity to, for the first time in American history, say that in this chamber, in this Congress, with this president, we're going to make the lives of working Americans better the way I just outlined. And while my colleagues, I don't expect them, and it would be quite honestly odd for them to agree with us on everything. Just don't lie. Just don't come out here on the floor and say that this is a bill for billionaires. This is a bill for working Americans. And I would challenge any of my colleagues that are going to speak that when they make those statements, reference the page number and the exact line in the bill that helps billionaires. Just point that out. And by the way, on these solar scams, we're not banning solar panels. We're not banning windmills. What we're saying is we're not going to make you filthy rich if you build one of these projects. But if you want to build a solar panel project somewhere in Ohio, you can do it. You're just not going to do it with the massive subsidies from the federal government. So, Mr. President, again, I'll urge all of my colleagues, let's unite as a party. Let's show the American people that Republicans have the ability to govern, that we can come together to pass a transformative and historical bill. And with that, I yield. Thank you, Mr. President.